A shocking revelation, they uncovered the untold truth about Joshua, Moses' mysterious assistant. Few knew what truly happened that night. The night when the ground shook, and the sky blazed like fire. In a remote corner of the desert, where whispers of miracles persist like the scalding wind, a pivotal moment unfolded. It was under the shadow of Mount Sinai, where the glory of God met mere mortals, that Joshua, the formidable young assistant of Moses, found himself tangled in a web of enigma. He was not merely a servant. He was a warrior, a chosen vessel, marked by destiny. But there was something more, a flicker of doubt in his heart. A dilemma brewed within him, a clash of courage and fear. As the crackling thunder rolled and lightning pierced the darkness, he stood alone, the young warrior who had tasted the glory of battle and the bitterness of uncertainty. Joshua's hands trembled, feeling the weight of the tablets of stone. The very words of God etched within. How could he trust so fully when he bore a secret of his own? A secret so startling it could unravel the fabric of their purpose. Who was Joshua really? A name inscribed in history, yes, but did it reveal the man behind the miracles? The quiet moments when the camp fell silent, and the night spoke of the unspoken, haunted him. As he gazed into the swirling darkness, shadows danced like phantoms. Figures shifted in the periphery, his comrades, the murmurs of shared fears rippling through the night air. Is it true? Can it be? What does it mean? Questions hung heavy, thick like the dust of their wandering. Some looked towards Moses with reverence, others cast uneasy glances at Joshua. They sensed the change, the weight of the unknown spiraled around them, tight as the grip of a loved one's fading breath. Miracles had danced around the water from rocks, bread from the heavens, but at what cost? And then there was the voice within him, echoing with doubts. A flicker of past choices haunted Joshua. What if he faltered? What if he wasn't meant to lead? What if he was simply a glaring shadow against the great light of Moses? The sky roared. Thunder cracked open the heavens as Moses descended from the mountain. His face shone, but there was something unsettling in his step. Joshua held his breath, each heartbeat pounding in his chest like a war drum. What revelation awaited him? Would the man he admired see through the facade? Joshua wore the bravado that kept his fears at bay, and just as the moment leaned into climax, a voice cried out loud enough to pierce the tension, laced with skepticism. Joshua, you think you can lead? A gasp followed. The crowd stirred, eyes wide in disbelief. What secrets lay hidden in their hearts? The storm grew fierce, and darkness gripped the desert air. As questions bled into the night, a solitary thought echoed within the heart of Joshua. Could he truly rise, or was his fate written in the stars, beyond his grasp? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The tempest howled, whipping through the encampment with an energy that felt both sacred and chaotic. Joshua remained rooted to the spot, every accusing word slicing through his heart like a dagger. The voice that questioned him belonged to none other than Kara, a fierce advocate among the tribes, known for her unwavering loyalty to Moses and her piercing insight. Her challenge hung in the air, a test of resolve amidst the thunderous clamor. Do you think you can fill the shoes of a leader? She repeated, her gaze sharp as a spear. Do you believe that your strength can guide us? Joshua's breath hitched. He recalled moments spent in prayer, the fervent pleading for guidance, for strength. He had always looked to Moses for affirmation, yet here he was, called to stand alone in the eye of the storm. What do you know of struggle, Kara? He could have asked. What do any of you know of the choices that haunt me? But doubt and anger often collide, blindsiding the heart. Instead of articulating the tempest of emotion, he turned inward, questioning the very essence of what it meant to lead. He glanced at the faces around him, those encapsulated by the stark clarity of faith, the kind that could shift mountains. Yet he felt like a wanderer among saints. As the lightning illuminated the valley, ephemeral light cast stark shadows. He observed his comrades with newfound clarity. Fear and admiration danced together in their eyes. They spoke of him in hushed tones, a name forming on lips that could rend or uplift. Did they see him simply as a warrior? Or was there a flicker of doubt in their hearts just as there was in his? Moses drew nearer, his brow lined with an urgency that hinted at the burdens he carried. The tablets cradled in his arms shone with ethereal brilliance, yet they were also heavy with responsibility. As he reached Joshua, a different kind of tension rippled through the air. Moses, with wisdom layered through trials and tribulations, placed a firm hand on Joshua's shoulder. Courage lies not in the absence of fear, Moses spoke, his voice steady above the tumult. It is the choice to stand despite it. The rain began to fall, mixing with the dust beneath their feet, perhaps the heavens themselves joining in on their solemn communion. Joshua's heart quickened at the old leader's words, seeking to pierce through his armor of self-doubt. Could it be true? Was courage woven through the fabric of fear? Each flash of lightning bore revelations of what he must confront within. Yet yearning for acceptance and respect weighed him down. There was an ache inside him to belong, to be seen as more than shadows flickering against the greatness of others. As the atmosphere thickened with anticipation, an even deeper revelation beckoned just beyond where he stood. Could the burden of leadership strip him of his own identity? He had witnessed the great Moses beside the fiery bush, communing with God not out of sheer will, but in awe of divine purpose. But Joshua stood here, filled with uncertainty. Did he approach God in similar ignorance, or with the same heart? The night gathered closer, edged with doubts and revelations that spun like the wind. He stared back at the faces before him, those he would lead if shadows fell, or those he would stand with should the path unfold towards promise. His heart whispered a question that remained unvoiced. Was he ready to embrace the unknown, the light amidst the uncertainty? Just then, the wind steeped with a voice of thunder, both compelling and relentless. An echoing call ran deeper than the questions in Joshua's heart. Who is meant to lead, the fearful or the brave? And who, amidst shadows, can rise and step into the light? The storm raged on, the wind a wild symphony that pulled at the edges of resolve. But even amidst such chaos, another scripture began to unfold, one that spoke deeper than the crashing thunder around them. Joshua stood, feeling the weight of anticipation settle heavily on his shoulders. In the midst of the rain-soaked earth, he noticed a figure emerging at the edge of the camp, shrouded in a veil of darkness yet illuminated by an inner light. It was not an unfamiliar silhouette. It bore a resemblance to the ancient elders who once wandered the wilderness before them. His heart raced with both fear and wonder as the figure drew near, the essence of a mystery now taking shape before him. Do you understand, Joshua? The figure spoke, voice resounding with the clarity of a bell ringing through a fog. Do you grasp the truth that is entwined with the very fabric of your spirit? Joshua's mouth fell dry. His thoughts raced as he tried to decipher the implications of the question. Who are you? He managed, glancing again at Moses, who regarded the shadowed figure with solemn acceptance. I am the echo of those who have walked before, the figure responded, gesturing to the heavens where constellations shimmered like promises yet to be fulfilled. I am the seeker of the path that lies ahead, the whisper of what was and what could yet be. Your journey is both an ascent and a descent, the figure continued, glancing pointedly at the faces gathered in the camp. What you carry within you pales in comparison to the burdens of your people. They are not merely following a leader, they await a savior. The words struck Joshua like the fiercest winds. He considered the weight of the people's hopes, their fears, and their relentless desire for reassurance, all resting upon his uncertain shoulders. As the thunder rumbled above, each resonant boom felt like a drumbeat to the heart of his calling. But I am unworthy, Joshua whispered, his voice almost lost in the storm. I am merely a warrior. How can I fulfill such a role, when my heart is clouded with doubt? The figure stepped closer, the divine radiance emanating warmth amidst the chilly rain. But what is unworthiness if not a challenge to discover your true self? Every hesitation and uncertainty that lies within is an invitation to uncover the potential birth from your struggles. Will you embrace your calling, or will you retreat into silence? Joshua felt the air around him shift, as if the error of his thoughts reverberated among the hearts of his people. Each gaze, each whisper carried pressure forward with the grace of supplication and faith. The call to leadership now echoed louder than ever. Was he to step into his purpose or hide behind the shadows of his fear? A wave of realization crashed within him, a flicker of light cutting through his confusion. He pondered the nature of a leader. Was it merely the absence of fear, or did it involve an acceptance of all that fear encompassed? The notion that to lead was to serve, to embrace not only the luminous triumphs but also the hidden truths of themselves seemed liberating and yet daunting. And in that moment, with rain pouring down like a baptism, a question teased at the edges of his mind. What if the very fears that threatened to consume him were the ones that could illuminate the path ahead? Could his brokenness be the cornerstone upon which he could build a deeper relationship with those whom he was called to lead? As lightning split the sky, illuminating the camp in an ethereal glow, Joshua stood transformed, not free from struggle, but liberated to acknowledge it. The figure before him began to fade just as the tempest broke, a serene quiet descending over the camp as though the storm itself breathed a sigh of relief. The need for leadership was palpable. The questions that lingered now took on a new significance. How must he reconcile his inner turmoil with the expectations of the people? What truths about himself still lay buried, waiting to be discovered as he prepared to take the mantle of leadership? Would he rise or remain in the shadows, forever asking what could be? The dawn broke over the camp, a soft glow spilling across the landscape, washing away the remnants of the storm. There was a thick stillness in the air, as if nature held its breath in anticipation. Joshua awoke to a subtle shift in the atmosphere, the weight of the previous night clinging to him like the early morning mist. He rose from his place, the last traces of fear now mingling with a blend of resolve and uncertainty. As he stepped beyond the confines of the tent, the camp was alive with whispered conversation, the people still grappling with the aftermath of the tempest that had unleashed both chaos and clarity. He sought out Moses, who stood at the edge of the assembly, his face a canvas of contemplation as he surveyed the rising sun. Joshua, Moses beckoned, his voice deep and steady. Come, you must show our people the path forward. Joshua hesitated. The echo of the figure's words lingered in his mind, prompting a deeper introspection. But what path could there be, Moses? I am still searching for my own direction. Moses turned to him, eyes glistening with understanding. Every leader has walked this road of uncertainty. We were given the promise of a land flowing with milk and honey, but how can we reach it without acknowledging our fears and doubts? Joshua yearned to grasp the wisdom encapsulated in those words. If fear was indeed a part of the journey, could admitting it make him stronger? He watched as the people moved about their morning routines, seeking comfort in familiar Korisa, testament to their resilience. They relied on one another, knitting their lives together in the shadow of tribulation. It was then that he noticed a group of children playing, laughter echoing as they chased each other through the wet grass, oblivious to the burdens that occupied the minds of their elders. The innocence and lightness in their spirits sparked something profound within him. What had he lost in his pursuit of leadership? Was it possible that the very essence of guiding his people lay not in vain struggles but in embracing genuine connection and joy? Moses, sensing Joshua's shift in focus, spoke gently. What do you see, my friend? The children, Joshua replied. They embody everything we fight for: freedom, joy, laughter. Perhaps in leading them, we find the way to lead ourselves. With an invigorated spirit, Joshua approached the gathered assembly, drawing upon this new insight. As the people noticed him, a hush fell across the crowd. He recognized the expectation upon him, but instead of fear, he let gratitude wash over him. Brothers and sisters, he began, his voice steady but humbled, this journey we embark upon is not simply to reach a promised land, but to uplift, love, and cherish each other in the process. It is in our shared laughter and our collective burdens that we find strength. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the group, and Joshua felt the air thrum with possibility. He continued, let us not be burdened by the weight of our expectations, but instead find solace in our unity. In seeking to lead, let us remember the spirit of those who played, those who rested, those who shared in the food and laughter of common life. In the midst of this declaration, a familiar flicker caught his eye, the shimmering form of the figure from the night before. It stood in the periphery, translucent yet undeniably present. Joshua's heart quickened. Was it the spirit of the past whispering secrets of destiny, or perhaps a manifestation of the collective hope held by his people? The figure offered no words but seemed to nod approvingly as the energy in the camp shifted. Joshua felt a call in that moment to delve deeper into the spiritual mystery of his task, not merely to fulfill a role, but to realize that leadership was as much about discovering one's truth as it was about guiding others. As the people began to express their hopes and dreams, Joshua felt a knot of apprehension twist in his gut. The deeper he ventured into this communal vision, the more questions emerged. How could he reconcile his doubts with the soaring aspirations of those around him? What hidden revelations awaited him in the uncharted territories of his own spirit? In the heart of this awakening, what unknown truths about himself might he still need to unveil to truly embrace his calling? Was the vision he sought in leading them merely a reflection of what they already held within? And would he find the courage to face those truths, no matter where they might lead? As the sun climbed higher, casting rays of warmth over the camp, Joshua felt a certain urgency in the air. Transformations were unfolding not only within himself but also among his people, each individual touched by the spirit of renewed hope. The essence of laughter still lingered, draping them like a vibrant tapestry woven from dreams and aspirations. Yet, prowling behind this newfound purpose, an undercurrent of unease pulsed in Joshua's heart. He could feel the weight of unspoken fears and desires lingering just below the surface, like shadows skating along the edges of their hope. With each passing moment, the shimmering figure from the previous night beckoned him to confront that unease with courage, though its true meaning remained tantalizingly elusive. Moses, who had remained by Joshua's side, seemed to sense his turmoil. "What burdens your spirit, my dear friend?" he quietly inquired, his gaze soft yet probing. "I wonder," Joshua confessed, his voice barely carrying the weight of his thoughts, "if the paths we tread to our promised land are shrouded in truths we have yet to uncover. The people's hopes are vivid, yet what of my own? Am I merely a guide, or is there a deeper calling hidden within?" Moses nodded, understanding the weight of the question that washed over them like a gentle wave. Each leader must navigate their own labyrinth of purpose and doubt. To lead is to dive headfirst into the unknown, revealing not only the way but also oneself. Do you seek comfort in the certainty of your people's aspirations, or are you prepared to embrace the turbulent waters of your own heart? Joshua swallowed hard, battling with the pangs of self-doubt. Would he prove to be the leader they needed, or would he falter beneath the immense expectations? He glanced back toward the assembly, his heart aching with both pride and trepidation. He saw their faces, their longing for strength, clarity, and unity. Were they awaiting their destination, or were they seeking an assurance of hope personified within him? In this moment of reflection, a hush fell over the crowd, their eyes drawn to the distant horizon where the land seemed to pulse with secrets yet to be spoken. Tiny glimmers appeared, reflecting the brightness of a world vast and unexplored. Inexplicably, an urge welled up within him, a calling to step forth and seek out those truths for them all. "I must share something," he proclaimed, capturing their full attention. "There lies deep within this journey a mysterious truth, not just for me but for all of us. As our feet move toward the promised land, our spirits must also wrestle with the echoes of the past. We cannot evade our fears or doubts. We must confront them, for it is through acknowledging our shadows that we shall find the light." A gasp floated through the crowd, the gravity of his words settling like an unexpected chill. He felt the tension in the air shift, a collective intake of breath, as they processed the weight of his confession. Had he ventured too far, exposing both his vulnerability and their reality? Yet, just as uncertainty began to coalesce, the shimmering figure re-emerged amid the crowd, visible now to all. It stood not as a specter of fear but as a beacon of possibility, urging Joshua to embrace the hidden depths of his calling, to unveil the transformative truths that awaited not just him but all who journeyed together. "Look," Joshua gestured, his heart steadying, "there is something greater than us in play. Let us not shy away from our fears, but instead allow them to guide us to deeper understanding." What revelations about ourselves might we discover if we dare to explore our darkness as a means to better illuminate our path forward? Curiosity enveloped the crowd, drawing them closer, igniting a flicker of hope in their eyes as each wrestled with their own questions. Joshua sensed the charged atmosphere, teetering on the precipice of exploration. What would it mean for him to fully embrace both the joy and struggle of their collective journey? And as he stood among them, the most unsettling question loomed large in his heart: what truth, hidden within him, awaited its own revelation? Would he find the courage to face this unknown, and could it ultimately lead them all into a deeper realization of their promised destiny? As the murmurs of contemplation wove through the assembly, a thick veil of anticipation hung in the air. Joshua felt the fervent energy of his people, their eagerness anchoring him as he stood at the convergence of his own fears and their hopes. The shimmering figure shimmered mysteriously, emanating a soft glow as it moved gracefully amongst them, encouraging the spirit of revelation. But with this rising awareness, another sensation wove itself into Joshua's heart, an unsettling urgency. The same urgency that had drawn him to speak now compelled him to act. "We must seek the truths that lie beyond this moment," he proclaimed, his voice now firm and resonating with intention. "We will journey to the file of the spirits that dwell among the hills, those that know the histories and the mysteries that have shaped our people." Moses placed a calming hand on Joshua's shoulder. "And what do you suppose we seek there?" he asked, his eyes searching, an ancient wisdom hidden within their depths. "You speak of truths, both light and heavy, but can you truly bear the weight of what you may uncover?" Joshua considered the question, feeling its depth. "If our journey is to be complete, we must understand who we are, including the shadows lurking in our lineage. If we are to reach our promised land, we cannot simply march forward, we must reckon with our past, make peace with it, and allow it to guide our steps." The crowd seemed to absorb his words deeply, a blend of apprehension and curiosity dancing in their eyes. A sense of trepidation pricked at Joshua's heart. He was unearthing something greater than himself, a current that beckoned each soul present towards self-realization. They formed a procession, a tapestry of hope and uncertainty, as they began their trek toward the nearby hills. The sun dipped lower, casting golden rays through the gaps in the trees, illuminating the path ahead. Each step was laden with the unspoken weight of their shared history, a legacy of struggle, faith, and the yearning for a home that lingered just beyond their reach. Upon reaching a small clearing, silence enveloped them once more. The quiet seemed to hum with energy as Joshua turned to his people. "What do you fear most?" he asked, testing the waters of their collective spirits. "What shadows have trailed you through your life?" A gentle voice pierced the stillness, rising from the assembly. "I fear that we are but echoes of those who came before us, trapped in a cycle we cannot escape," said a woman with deep lines etched onto her face, each a testament to her trials. The others nodded, the truth resonating powerfully among them. Another voice, shaky yet resolute, joined in. "I fear we will never reach the land of promise, that destiny will slip through our fingers like grains of sand." As others voiced similar fears, the weight of their shared vulnerabilities began to weave a delicate bond, a thread of understanding that connected their individual journeys. Joshua felt compelled to share his own shadow truths. "I too fear that I will not prove to be the leader our people need me to be," he admitted, the words leaving his lips like gentle ripples breaking the surface of a still pond. "That beneath the unwavering facade, I am just a man full of doubts, wrestling with a calling that feels both magnificent and terrifying." As breaths were held in solidarity, the shimmering figure stepped forward, illuminating the clearing in a soft light that had never felt invasive, rather, it was warm and welcoming. Joshua understood now. This presence embodied the very truths they were attempting to uncover. It was the essence of revelation, simultaneously liberating and heavy with the knowledge it bore. Together, Joshua continued, emboldened by the ethereal spirit, we can confront our fears and uncertainties, as well as the legacies that may bind us. In facing these trials, we may find the strength needed to carve open the path to our promised land, not as individuals, but as a united voice. A swell of determination swept through the assembly, harmonizing with the whisper of hope in their hearts. Yet, beneath the momentum of this resolve, an unsettling echo lingered in Joshua's mind, a riddle disquietingly unanswered. What if the truths they unearthed did not lead to liberation but to deeper chains? What hidden stories lay dormant within their lineage, waiting to be awakened, and would they be prepared for the weight of those revelations? As the rays of the dying sun cast long shadows upon the gathered assembly, Joshua felt the weight of uncharted territory hover before him. The ethereal presence, emanating warmth and clarity, began to shift slightly, revealing incandescent strands of memories woven through the fabric of existence. The people stood, enraptured, as the air thickened with anticipation and curiosity, their hearts infused with a lingering tension that danced on the edge of revelation. Joshua gathered his thoughts, driven by an urge to delve deeper into the spiritual landscape. He felt that the presence had not come merely to illuminate the path to the promised land but to reveal the complex layers of their own identities. "Let us not shy away from the questions that linger," he urged, his voice steady, as though grounding the assembly in their collective longing. "What if the keys to our freedom lie not in our destination but in our understanding of who we are, even before we set foot on that sacred soil?" The crowd's murmurs rose once again, a symphony of curiosity and anxiety swirling through the gathering. "What do we risk uncovering?" Another voice quaked, a younger man whose features were still soft with the naivety of youth. "Are we prepared for the secrets hidden in our lineage? Could our ancestors hold truths so heavy they might shatter the foundations of our beliefs? To unveil the past requires a fierce courage," Moses interjected, his voice resonant with conviction and assurance. "Each generation has faced the shadows, bringing to light those things which unite us in pain and glory. Only by embracing both can we hope to ascend the mountain that lies before us. Those who refuse the depth of their own stories may walk a path blinded by ignorance." Encouraged by Moses' words, Joshua stood taller. The shimmering figure pulsed gently, casting a luster that suggested unveiling remains at hand. "Let me speak to you of an image, a vision that binds us all," he began, reliving fleeting dreams that echoed in his dreams. "Imagine this our forebears walking through the desert, encrusted with doubt yet tethered by unyielding faith. Among them is a figure, veiled and unknown. What if this figure were the embodiment of a forgotten lineage, a truth lost in the annals of time that shapes our destinies?" The assembly shifted restlessly, the spark of intrigue igniting amidst their uncertainties. Questions bubbled to the surface like water from a deep well. Could this figure reveal a shared ancestry, one that intertwines our lives with notions of betrayal and redemption? A woman asked, her brow furrowed in thought. "Yes," Joshua replied, emboldened as inspiration awakened him. "What if we learn that we are more than simple wanderers in search of land? What if we discover a narrative rife with betrayal or trials faced by those who loved and lost, or even those who fell short? Each story holds power. Within their revelations could be the sustenance for our movement forward. Are we thus prepared to confront this?" A sense of anticipation piqued. It was in that moment that a wave of presence surged into the clearing. The figure glimmered and began to weave into the vibrant storytelling they had invoked. Each whisper carried echoes of shades that shaped the generations, the tales of Jacob's wrestle, of Joseph's imprisonment, and even voices of the ancestors who journeyed far away from their own promised lands, seeking solace but finding struggles deeper than they had foreseen. Suddenly, the air thickened, reverberating with a chilling silence that encapsulated their vulnerability. Joshua's heart raced as the atmosphere swelled with cosmic urgency. A dawning realization struck him. What if these stories of old mirrored his own? Did he carry within him a legacy marked by trials yet unexplored? Might his purpose be intertwined with a history of pain, a humility required to heal the wounds that echoed through time? Gathering his breath, Joshua turned to the assembly. "For every story that was never told, every voice that was silenced, we must seek to uncover, not to drown in despair but to find strength in our truth." As he spoke, the shimmering figure flickered, a delicate reminder that this journey meant confronting not just what was broken in their lineage, but what could be reborn through understanding and compassion. And so, as night began to stretch across the horizon, the assembly held their collective breath. In confronting their past, would they emerge united with newfound purpose, or would a deeper dissonance fracture the bonds they so deeply sought to cultivate? The questions loomed over them like a cloud on a summer's day, leaving lingering reflections on the nature of their shared journey. What truths awaited them in the embrace of their ancestry? And would they be ready to forge their path forward while carrying the weight of their forebears' stories? As the twilight deepened and stars began to sprinkle the heavens, Joshua sensed a stirring among the gathered people. They were no longer mere spectators. They had become part of a sacred dialogue, one that reached beyond the confines of the moment and intertwined with history. The shimmering presence shifted, drawing them closer, as if inviting them to peer into an abyss of possibility that laid before them. Many of you may feel the tremors of fear settle in your hearts, Joshua said, his voice resonating through the cool evening air. Fear of what digging into our past might reveal, fear that we are not as noble as we desire to be, or that our foundations are built upon the rubble of the unworthy. But I urge you, let us kindle our bravery, for within the soil of our roots lies the truth that can liberate us. The assembly, once restless and apprehensive, now shifted with a quiet intensity. Eyes locked on Joshua, they leaned in as if the very air around them hung heavy with the weight of ancient truths yearning to be unveiled. He took a step forward, emboldened not only by the support of his people but by the vision that danced behind his mind's eye, the veiled figure, whom he felt had tethered the stories of every soul present. What if the figure I spoke of is not simply a shadow of our past but rather a reflection of our deepest aspirations? Joshua continued, his heart pounding with urgency. A living testament to the struggles faced by our ancestors, perhaps even a harbinger of who we are meant to become. Might this figure reveal a profound connection to our journey, a binding thread that speaks not only of distress but also of hope? A soft murmur cascaded through the crowd, burgeoning into a collective whisper of names: Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah. Each name held an echo of lessons and legacies, catalysts for the journey they had undertaken. Joshua felt the collective heartbeat of his people as they began to grasp the magnitude of inheriting not just stories, but the courage to reclaim them. In the stillness, faint images began to flicker and unveil themselves before the assemblance like shadows of figures long past, roaming the sands, sturdy and steadfast against the winds of uncertainty. Among them, he beheld a woman with a cloak billowing in the midnight breeze, carrying a weight that spoke of resilience and grace. The assembly gasped softly, a wave of recognition washing over some, igniting a glimmer of understanding in others. She walks among and within us, Joshua whispered, captivated. She who weaves the fabric of our narratives, binding together the threads of existence. Perhaps she embodies the rage of a mother's heart, or the compassion of a sister who bore burdens unspoken. What if she represents the unbroken connection to every sacrifice made for the sake of future generations? As whispers evolved into sobering silence, a tremor quaked through Joshua's being. Memories became more tangible, scenes of anguish and joy alike flashed before him. The faces of those he loved were etched in an ethereal glow, of his father's struggle, his mother's whispers of faith, and the trials they bore together in a land far removed from the safety of ancestral bonds. And what if, he dared to posit, sensing the stirrings of unrest rise in his own heart, we find the truth of our beloved Moses entwined with her story? His voice may rise in courage, yet what sorrows echo through his veins? An exodus that is both his own and ours, a resilience forged in fire, marked by choices made in moments of desperation. The murmurs returned, now a tide of resilient exploration, provoking thoughtful contemplation. The assembly was on the precipice of embarking on a profound journey to reconcile their inherited stories with the darkness that enveloped many. What must we learn, and what burdens must we release to become the people of promise? Someone pondered aloud, revealing the essence of their newly ignited quest. Joshua raised his hands, his spirit kindled by their willingness to seek. Let this be our charge, to embrace the unknown, to confront our past, not merely as the weight we must bear but as the foundation of our transformation. Ahead lies the daunting promise of the land we yearn for, but first we must descend into the depths of who we are, and in that moment of brightened clarity, as the stars blinked above in silent witness, an unanswerable question lingered: what hidden truth remained locked within the ancestral shadows that might illuminate their path? And would the courage to accept it weave their stories together into a tapestry resilient enough to conquer the trials that awaited them? As the evening deepened into night, a cool breeze swept across the assembly, mingling with the anticipation that filled the air. The people stood on the edge of a profound revelation, captivated by the essence of their shared legacy that Joshua had invoked. The shadows whispered and stirred in the corners of their minds, revealing that the journey forward would not be a straightforward one, but rather one that meandered through the intricacies of their hearts. Joshua's pulse quickened as he stood before the crowd, aware that their questions would soon transform into a seeking of answers not just about those who had come before, but about his very own place within this sacred narrative. It was as though destiny itself held its breath, waiting to reveal what lay beneath the surface of his identity. What if the threads we unravel speak to our own hidden truths? He pondered, glancing toward the starlit sky, as if expecting an answer from the divine. What if our images and stories are not distinct but intertwined? His voice resonated with the echoes of a greater calling, compelling the audience to confront their individual roles in this unfolding saga. A hush fell over the crowd, broken only by the rustling of garments as the people shifted. In the stillness came a voice, soft yet piercing through to the very marrow of their beings. "Joshua, are you certain the shadows do not harbor secrets about you?" The speaker, a woman who had known Joshua since childhood, stepped forward. "You've carried the mantle of leadership, and yet you've always been in the shadow of Moses. Is it not time you faced what lies within your own inheritance?" The question hung heavily in the air, and Joshua felt the weight of it like a stone sinking into the depths of his heart. His connection to Moses had often felt like a river flowing through him, predominantly shaped by the strong currents of the great leader's life. Yet, as he stood before his people, he sensed the currents shifting, the waters calling him to delve deeper. What if my story is tied more closely to the figure we glimpsed in the shadows? Joshua murmured, his mind racing with the possibilities. Could it be that the woman whose spirit he felt resonating was akin to Mary, or implying something deeper about his own lineage? His throat constricted with the urgency of the moment. Perhaps within my own ancestral tapestry lies a bond to the resilience I admire in others. A murmuring swept through the assembly as they considered the implications of Joshua's words. Their eyes filled with wonder, for in this questioning, their own reflections began to stir. If Joshua was grappling with the shadows of his own past, could they dare to do the same? Many felt a pull in their own hearts, a whisper reminding them that courage did not lie solely in the act of leading or following, it resided within all of them. The night deepened, and the stars twinkled like ancient witnesses, their light revealing glimpses of the past entwined in the present. Questions poured forth like a steady stream, each one a tributary leading back to the source of their common struggle. What is the true legacy of our lineage? What burdens have we carried unknowingly? As Joshua paced beneath that vast canopy of stars, he recognized the profound depth of his people's wisdom. Brothers and sisters, as we seek the shadows of our shared lineage, we must hold fast to the conviction that our pasts are not an impediment but a foundation upon which we can construct our future. For whether I stand in the shadow of Moses or under my own light, the path remains the same: the journey toward understanding and embracing who we are meant to become. With these words, a collective sigh escaped the assembly, a melding of fear and relief. Each heart bounced delicately on the threshold of revelation, the air thick with both uncertainty and possibility. And in the shared silence that followed, an unanswered question lingered. As we embark on this pilgrimage through time and truth, will we summon the strength to confront the shadows that bind us, and ultimately, learn what they reveal about our collective destiny? As the first light of dawn painted the horizon with hues of pink and gold, the assembly gathered close in the clearing, their breaths mingling with the cool morning air. The quiet that enveloped them felt sacred, heavy with the weight of their shared revelations. Joshua stood at the forefront, empowered yet vulnerable, a delicate balance of the leader he aspired to be and the man still wrestling with the shadows of his past and present. Today, Joshua began, voice steady as it rose to meet the awakening sun, we will confront not just the shadows of our ancestors, but also the legacies they have bequeathed to us. There was a hush in the air, as if every soul present held its breath in eager anticipation. We have been wandering not simply in a barren land, but through the labyrinth of our histories, oftentimes too afraid to confront the stories that lie beneath the surface of our existence. As the light grew brighter, illuminating the faces of his people, Joshua continued, in our fears, we find our truths, in our truths, we find our strength. We must not allow the weight of our past to anchor us to despair, but instead let them serve as the wings that propel us toward our promised land. He felt a stirring in the air, an energy that didn't just belong to him but surged through the hearts of his people. Slowly, he began to share glimpses of his own lineage, hesitant yet determined. I, too, carry within me the echoes of desire and doubt, woven through the fabric of my birth. There are shadows that haunt my nights, the expectations placed upon me, the legacy of Moses, and the fear that I may never be enough. A murmur rose among the crowd, but Joshua pressed on. And yet I have come to realize that it is in confronting these shadows that I may blossom into who I am meant to be. He paused and took a breath, the silence inviting the stories yet to emerge. Your fears are my fears, your burdens are my burdens. Together we are drawn toward the revelation that unifies us all. Encouraged, he motioned to the figure that shimmered within the clearing, now clearer than the night before. In essence, what I spoke of is not only my story, but yours as well. We are on a shared journey, not to simply reach a destination but to rediscover the threads of connection that bind us. This figure embodies the trials and triumphs of those who have come before us, their whispers urging us to find strength in our vulnerabilities. As the assembly swayed with emotion and contemplation, Joshua's heart swelled at the evolving unity. What if we stand here, on the edge of revelation, not just to reveal what has been lost but also to embrace what has been realized? To emerge from this reckoning united in purpose? The wind stirred, carrying the resonance of his words like melodies wafting through the trees. A brave voice rose from among them, a young man who stepped forth. Joshua, what if the key to understanding our past is to see the beauty amid the pain? Each wound tells a story of survival, yet each triumph ushers in hope. Affirming murmurs rippled through the crowd, as they began to lean into the conversation, exploring the depths of their histories. Exactly! Joshua exclaimed, igniting a spark within his own spirit. And perhaps the promises of our future will not merely arise from our successes but from the humility of our struggles. Burdens transformed into wisdom, our pathways paved to the promised land. Galvanized by this emerging dialogue, others began to share their insights, each reflection illuminating a facet of the shared journey. A woman spoke of her grandmother's hardships, how the stories of resilience had been obscured but ultimately became her foundation. Another recounted the trials faced by her family, how understanding their legacy transformed her fear into resolve. With each story told, the figures shimmered, enveloping them in an aura of warmth, encouraging them to find the courage not just to confront the past but to embrace it. Together they dug deeper, sifting through the shadows that revealed, time after time, the raw beauty of their lineage. Ours melted away under the warmth of the sun as voices rose in a chorus of vulnerability. A remarkable transformation swept through the crowd. What began as a gathering daunted by shadows evolved into a sanctuary filled with hope and promise. They were learning that healing began when they embraced their histories, piecing together the shards of their identities into a unified whole. Finally, as the sun began its descent toward the horizon, Joshua gathered the lingering energy of the day. Let us stand here, where our stories intertwine with the stories of those who walked before us. May we carry this knowledge with us as we forge ahead. We are not meant to walk this path alone, nor are we meant to hide behind shadows. He gestured toward the hills beyond, where the echoes of their conversations mixed with the winds carrying prophetic whispers. We are called to rise together, embracing who we are, loving the journey we travel, and allowing the teachings of the past to guide us toward the promises of the future. At that moment, the shimmering figure seemed to merge with the fading light, an ethereal reminder of the sacredness of their journey. The air thrummed with possibility, as each individual stood resolute, united in their willingness to conquer what lay ahead. As Joshua looked at the faces of his people, a profound realization settled upon him. Transformation was not simply about leading with strength, but in nurturing the roots of understanding and love that spanned generations. In that intertwining of journeys, clouds of uncertainty parted to reveal a vision of hope, a collective promise that resonated far beyond the borders of their memories. And in that sacred convergence of fears and aspirations, Joshua unearthed the most significant revelation: leadership lies in the freedom to embrace one's full self, light and the shadows alike. The journey ahead was undoubtedly paved with trials, yet empowered by a knowing that they were no longer alone, that together, anchored in their stories, they could illuminate the path toward the promised land. You are not just warriors, he declared, his voice rising with conviction. You are the vessel through which hope flows, a testament of faith to all who come after us. Let us take these truths, intertwining them with love and courage, stepping boldly into our tomorrow. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a promise echoed within their hearts. Perhaps the most significant legacy of all was the courage to embrace transformation, the strength to rise as one, and the enduring faith that would carry them into the future. The warmth of unity wrapped around them like a cloak, igniting a shared purpose, the essence of spiritual rebirth echoing through time, undulating like ripples across the waters of their souls.